Having a pet is never cheap. In addition to being an expert in their food, their behaviour and their poo, you're also going to need to become a budgeting ninja. You might think, well, it's just the cost of food, and I've seen packs of food in the shop that are only about £2 each. But let me tell you, this is not the case. At least, it's not the case if you want to be a responsible dog owner who feeds their dog something that's better than what is essentially sawdust and wants to provide things for them to have a great life. So let's take a look at the finances of having a dog here on the Skulldoggery YouTube channel. I'm Matt, and as ever you can find us on all good social medias. We are at Skulldoggery, and don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube and drop us a comment letting us know what you think we should cover next. So let's get a practical issue for this video out of the way with first. If you've got yourself a little Yorkie Terrier, the costs are going to be a bit different to that of if you've got something like a Great Dane or a Mastiff. Most dog products come in a range of shapes and sizes, so these will vary depending on what breed you've got. But there are a lot of things that can remain the same no matter the breed. So what we're going to do is keep 3 running totals down here on the screen so that you can see the breakdowns between a small, medium and large sized dog. We're going to use Freddie to talk about mainly as he's a good middle example. Sure, things like food requirements will make a difference, but so do things like leads and collars. It's not the best idea to walk something the size of a Chow Chow on the same lead that you would walk a Schnauzer on. Most of these prices we're going to take from a large national chain of pet stores. But if you shop around, you might be able to find versions for a bit cheaper. But please remember that cheaper isn't always better. So let's start at the very beginning, the cost of a dog itself. Now we definitely got told, adopt, don't shop. But after searching a lot of the local dog rescues, we found that the rules that they had could be really quite restrictive. If we wanted much say in what breed we got and what age we would get, we really found that it was easier for us to shop rather than adopt. If you are a first-time dog owner, it might not be the best thing for you to get a dog with behaviours that's already set in. If you adopt a 5-year-old dog and you don't know how to work with dogs, you might find that in 6 months you're taking them back because you think that they're too much and you don't know how to condition dog behaviours and how to work with them, and that can put people off. It can also be a massive disservice to the dogs themselves. So often we see people who learn by having a puppy get a much better understanding of how they can help adopted dogs further down the line in the future. With all that said, this is how we ended up paying over £1,000 for Freddie. Yeah, it's a lot. But we had the peace of mind that we weren't going to have a rescue worker barge into our house at any point and just take the dog from us, because that is what one rescue had as part of their conditions. So we got Freddie during COVID, when the prices for staffy puppies were absolutely through the roof. Pre-pandemic, you could expect to pay around £600 for a staffy puppy, maybe a bit more if you wanted a purebred or a kennel club registered one. But over COVID, this doubled to £1,200. Prices have now come down and stabilised a little bit. But if you're after a puppy of any breed, you're going to be paying between £500 to £2,000. So we're going to exclude the price of a dog on our totals here, as this video is about the universal costs, and your experiences with getting a dog will certainly differ from ours. However, the costs that we're going to cover can definitely apply to when you get a puppy or when you rescue a dog. Age is irrelevant to a lot of these. So once we'd found Freddie, we could start preparing the house. Puppies shouldn't be taken from their mother and their litter mates until they're at least 8 weeks old, and we'd found Freddie when he was 5 weeks old. So we were really lucky that we had some time to prepare. So let's cover the basics of what we bought Freddie before he arrived, and these definitely apply to any dog before they get to you. So the first thing is going to be food and water bowls. These tend to be between £5 to £10 each, but we're not going to give a small, medium and large here because you might find that you want a good heavy bowl for a small dog, or similarly that you might find that you want your big dog to have a lighter bowl or a different style of bowl. There's so many variables. So let's say £7 across the board times 2 for water and food. Next is going to be where they sleep, and for us this was a crate. Now for crate sizes we're going to give 38, 45 and 55, but these prices are based on a good strong crate, not the ridiculous ones that I've seen that seem to be made of pipe cleaners. If you've got a crate, you're going to need bedding for that crate, so that's 9, 13 and 15. For daytime, we also wanted him to have somewhere comfortable that he could nap around the living room, so we got him a basket. These tend to be 26, 32 and let's say 40 for a larger dog. When they're not sleeping, and they will sleep a lot if you get a puppy, you're going to need a good selection of teething and play toys. And even if you get a rescue dog, you're still going to need a good selection of toys. So let's give them 20, 30 and 40 for those. Next, you're going to need a collar for your dog. So the basic ones that you can get are £3, £4 and £5, but there is a world of collars out there, especially if you go and look on Etsy and eBay, you'll find some amazing custom made ones. Next up, a lead. Every dog needs a lead, so that's 3, 5 and 6 for the leads. And now I just want to touch on flexi leads for a moment. We're going to give them 7, 12 and 25, but let me just say why I'm taking this a bit extra here. A lot of dog trainers don't seem to like flexi leads. They would much prefer everybody have a long line. Now, we've got a long line, but we found that when going for walks, it was really impractical. And we wanted something that we could put in our pocket, and when we were in a field somewhere, clip it onto Freddie's harness and give him some freedom and let him explore a bit more. A flexi lead is much more compact and easier to deal with than lugging a great big long line everywhere. Long lines do have their use, don't get me wrong, I'm glad we've got one, but we're not going to cover them here. But when you buy a flexi lead, it's important that you pay attention to not just the colour of it, which is what I always go to first, but it's the rating of it as well. If you've got a 10 kilogram dog, it's best not to buy the 10 kilogram dog lead. If your dog gets a head of speed up, and let's say your lead is 5 meters long, so the dog is 5 meters behind you, runs for then 10 meters as it goes past you, it can be up to quite a speed. And if your lead is only just rated for the size of the dog that you've got, then you might run into problems with it later down the line if it keeps getting jerked like that. So Freddie is 27 kilograms, so we had no problems at all getting him the flexi lead that was rated for a 50 kilogram dog. However fast he gets, that lead will stop him. It's one less thing to worry about. Now, because I mentioned flexi leads and clipping them onto his harness, let's include the cost of some harnesses in here as well. So we're going to give 10, 20 and £30 for harnesses. Next, we bought a stair gate to stop him running all around the house and getting upstairs. A brilliant thing to do when you get a puppy is to reduce the size of their world so that you can teach them rules and gradually let them expand out as they grow and as they mature. And this definitely applies to rescue dogs as well. They don't know the rules of your house, so if you can keep them confined for a while in a small space, you can keep an eye on them, you can manage the situation, and you can help them to learn safely. So we're going to allow 25 for every category here, just for houseproofing and stopping the dog getting into things that they shouldn't get into. Next, let's look at training treats. These again can massively vary in prices, so we'll do a £3 average for each bag here. We'll give 1 bag to the small dog, 2 bags to the medium dog, and 3 bags to the large dog. Another universal cost that every single dog has is going to be poo bags. These tend to be about £2 for a pack. Be prepared though, you are going to be finding these in your pockets for the rest of eternity. Another item that people don't often consider straight away is insurance for their pet. We've had to claim on our insurance for Freddie a couple of times, and we're so glad that we took out an all singing, all dancing insurance policy. So let's allow £40 across the board for this as well. The final thing that I want to count here is kibble for meals. Now, kibble averages at around £9 for a 1.5 kilogram bag. But that is going to last a small dog weeks and weeks and weeks, a medium dog maybe a week or two, and a large dog, if you get an adult large dog from a rescue, it might only last you a couple of days if you're unlucky when they're fully grown. So it's hard to give full prices on here, so we're just going to put on for now £10 on each for that initial bag of food that you're going to need before they get home. Wow, that's several £100s each, and that's just on stuff. But these are the basics of what you're going to need to properly look after your dog and give it a brilliant life and help them to become an amazing part of your household. Do keep in mind though that a lot of these costs are going to be ongoing. You'll always be buying new treats and new poo bags to keep the stocks up. You're going to be replacing broken toys and bedding and loads of things if they're a heavy chewer or if they like to destroy things. Side note though, if you do get a puppy, you're going to want to invest in a really good brand of coffee because you will be up and down at the night time like I was, taking them out for toilet breaks if you're doing it responsibly. Now, dog food and what you should feed them immediately when they get home has quite a few different schools of thought on what to do. The common advice and what I'm going to advise is to use whatever food the breeder or rescue has been using and then slowly transition them if you want them to be on something else. Never just switch foods immediately, as that can really upset their stomachs. I would highly advise to you though that if your dog comes to you and they're being fed on brands like Pedigree, Baker's or Wag, move away from those as soon as possible. Rescues certainly might be using these cheaper brands because they can't afford to give them anything better than that. Cheap dog foods often contain a lot of filler and not much in the way of nutrition. It's a real case of you get what you pay for. You will be buying food for the rest of your dog's life. And if you just go down to the corner shop and buy a small bag of cheap, nasty kibble every time, you're going to pay over the odds and not do your dog's stomach any favours. So I really think it's best to go to at least a specialist pet shop and see if you can buy quality food in bulk. You're going to need it. So not only will it save you money, buying from proper pet shops is also going to remove some of the worst options of dog food that you could give them. A dog's behaviour is really impacted by the quality of their food though, much more than people initially think. So if you want a great resource for finding out information about what to feed your dog, then I can highly recommend that you go to allaboutdogfood.co.uk, as they've got some great advice and calculators on there for everyday food and treats, along with information about what actually goes into your dog food so you can see exactly what your pooch is getting. Treats are another area like this where the sky is the limit, but the cheaper the treat, the more rubbish it's likely to have in it. Now don't get me wrong, we certainly use cheap treats for Freddie, and we still do now and again because he blooming loves them. But we make sure that we've got some high quality ones mixed in there as well so that he's got a good balance. But let's get back to how dogs drain our wallets, shall we? Once you've prepared your house, you've got everything you think you're going to need and you've got a training program in place, it's time to get your dog. And on day one, they will immediately cost you more money. Yeah, sorry, there's no rest for your wallet here. When you pick up your dog, you should be given paperwork about what vets they're registered at and what jabs they've already had. This should cover their first set of vaccinations if they're a puppy and any information about what microchips they've got. In an ideal scenario, you'll need to inform the microchip company that you are the new owner. But if they don't have one, you need to get a microchip sorted as soon as possible as it's a legal requirement. So again, this can be between £10 to £30 depending on where you go. So we're going to split the difference and give everybody £20 here for a microchip. Then there's your dog's vaccinations. If they've already had their first round, or if they're a rescue, they might have already had all of them, but you still want to get them booked in for at least a checkup and any extra vaccinations as soon as possible. Puppies certainly should not be allowed outside and anywhere where wild animals are to sniff around until they've had both their rounds of vaccinations. So let's give everybody £50 here to cover those first vet trips and that first set of vaccinations if you need them. Booster shots are also going to cost you money ongoing as well, but again, this is part of being a responsible owner. Vet charges do seem to vary by postcode, unfortunately. I know that for us, a basic checkup costs about £40, where I do know of people who live in different parts of the country and they get charged over £60 for the exact same thing. So as I've alluded to through parts of this, a lot of these costs are ongoing. If you are incredibly lucky, you might get a puppy or a rescue who doesn't chew things, who never throws up, and who doesn't have any accidents. And another side note, you will learn to hear the sound of a dog starting to throw up from 4 rooms away, trust me. But the chances of this are really quite small though. So you'll need to be prepared to get a second or even third versions of some of these things, depending on how your puppy behaves. Freddie chewed his way through countless beds and baskets as he was growing up. I don't even want to attempt to work out how much we spent on them. So for a lot of these things, it's best to see them as investment purchases. And certainly make sure that you get good quality versions of things. We spent extra on our crates and got the Kong branded ones, which are brilliant and are built like Fort Knox. But we've seen so many examples of cheaper crates that are made out of terrible materials that rust, that bend, that break. But we thought it was best to have peace of mind no matter what happens. Doggy daycare is an ever-growing industry here in the UK and the US right now and can have some amazing bonuses for socialising your dog, but only providing that you use a reputable one that actively engages with your dogs rather than leaving them to it in a field with no stimulation and no oversight or interaction with people. Our current daycare that we use are night and day different. They are brilliant. I cannot recommend them enough. They make sure that before your dog is even allowed into the big pack of dogs, that they are given introduction lessons so they know how to pick up on doggy body language. They have a good ratio of staff to dogs, and they don't just leave them to it. They've got sand instead of AstroTurf, which, yeah, is messy, but it's a lot safer. They've got so many different things that the dogs can play on and climb and bounce on and interact with. They're always playing games with their dogs. They're doing themed things. They recently did an Olympics. They take hundreds of photos every day to post on Facebook so that you can see that your dog is having an amazing time in a safe environment. So before you leave your dog at a daycare, always make sure that you can check out the facilities first and ask them what they do to help their dogs socialise with each other.
Hi everybody, this is Editing Matt here. I just wanted to say I got on such a rant here that I forgot to mention the prices. So daycare for us is around about £30 for a few hours or half a day. This will vary, but we're going to give £30 to everybody to account for daycare. And now, back to the video.
The final cost that I want to cover here that I think should be applicable to every dog is the cost of neutering, and this is a little controversial. Some people seem to be quite anti-neutering, and this is especially prevalent in blokes who seem to think that their balls are linked to their dog's balls. But in my mind, it is one of the most responsible things that you need to do as a good dog owner. In fact, most good daycares won't actually let male dogs over 1 year old in unless they've been neutered. Female dogs can also be spayed to prevent them from becoming pregnant. Now, this is another area where costs can vary depending on breed, the age and the sex of the dog, including any other medications that they might need due to complications or pain issues afterwards. So we're going to allow 200 for everybody here to cover all the bases, but this is certainly another investment in your dog, as £200 now is so much cheaper than dealing with an unexpected litter of puppies further down the line. So adding all of this up, you can see that we've approached and gone over the £500 mark. And this is just for the things that you're going to need before you get your dog initially. We're not including the price of replacement beds, replacement toys, things that get chewed, food costs or unplanned vet trips. But I'm really not trying to put you off here. The purpose of this channel and the videos that we make is to try and give people a thorough and fully rounded understanding of what it takes to be a responsible dog owner. You go into any pet shop and ask the staff, they will tell you stories of people who have just bought a dog down the pub, walked into a pet shop and gone, what do I need to do to deal with this? And that's it. And that is not being a responsible owner. A responsible owner knows all the problems that could be coming up, all the pitfalls, and already has an idea of how to deal with them. So many other dog channels will just tell you the happy parts and never mention the costs. They'll just show you dogs being goofballs and fun, but they won't tell you the realistic aspects of what it takes to have a well-rounded dog. Because if you can get it right, and this is why we do this, you really will be rewarded with the best friend that you've ever had. Freddie is my best friend. There's no two words about that. And I do not care how much money it takes to keep him that way. He's worth it. Thank you so much if you've made it to the end. If you've liked this video, then please consider subscribing, liking, giving us a comment. We really do appreciate every single interaction from you guys. If you've got any questions or ideas for what we think we should cover next, let us know down below, or come and find us over on our social channels at School Doggery everywhere. And until next time, please look after yourselves and your dogs.